When you get ready to buy your new home, you're going to be faced with so many interesting possibilities for the home style that you want, but you're also going to be faced with some compromises. Let's talk about 5 concessions to never ever make as a first-time home buyer. My name is Andrew Finney. My passion is helping you make sense of real estate. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. Okay team, let's take a closer look at this. You've probably already heard that location, location, location is the mantra of real estate, and it certainly is true. There's a couple of things that we really want to take a closer look at when we're considering your first home. One of those things that we need to consider are the school districts. If you have children, then you want to make sure they're going to be in a school district that's going to educate them, nourish their young minds, and inspire them to grow and be more creative and become more intelligent overall, right? If you compromise on this and you buy maybe a bigger home in a lower school district or a lower rated school district, how's that going to impact your child growing up? How's that going to impact their education and what they're learning? You may be spending more money than the savings that you would have realized on your home because you're going to be paying for private tutors, private education, or if not, end up putting them in private school. Now that's a pretty penny, and that's going to cost a fortune compared to just maybe getting a little bit of a smaller home in the school district that you really want. Another thing to consider, and people make this compromise all the time, and ultimately look, if these are some of the compromises you need to consider, it's up to you. At the same time, do so with open eyes and make sure that you're making the right decision for you, because one of the big things that people do is they will often say, well, I really want this home and I can drive all over the city. I can drive all over the town and it's okay. So what I want to do is buy a bigger home that's going to make me happier, but my commute's going to be maybe an hour and a half away from where I work. Now, consider that. Consider what we just said there. We're looking at an hour to an hour and a half one-way direction to your job. That is only 24 hours in a day. If you're spending an hour a day commuting, then that means that you have 2 hours that you could have been spending time with your family, and you also should consider the fuel cost. Again, taking a holistic view at this, how much money did it really save you by buying maybe a lesser expensive home out of the way just to get into a home, whereas maybe you could go with a little bit of a smaller home or a little bit of a different location that's closer to your work. These are things that you want to consider when you're thinking about the location for your new home. The second thing that you want to think about is, does size really matter? To some people, they're like, yeah, size, the bigger the better. Some are like, no, it's not so much, not so important. And some say, oh, I prefer to have a little bit smaller. Well, the thing that we're talking about right now is actually the size of your home. And it does actually matter depending on what your future plans are. One of the things I always ask people here in Las Vegas, Nevada in practice is, how long do you intend to live in your home? And do you plan on having a family if you don't already? If it's a single person, I'll simply ask them, do you foresee yourself getting married in the next 5 to 7 years or 10 years, and how would that impact you with this home? Now, while you can always scale up if you do get married, it's something to consider that if it's within your budget to buy the right home for you now that maybe you can grow into. If you're planning on having kids, consider that as a very real possibility. Now, if you're not planning on having kids, maybe a 3-bedroom home is your thing, maybe a 2-bedroom home is your thing. But if you're planning on having a family of 2 or 3 or more kids, then perhaps you should be looking at 4-bedroom homes that are going to offer your family the lifestyle and enjoyment that you envision having with your future family. These are things that are really important to consider when we're talking about the size of the home. Now, I would like to balance this out with the reality. The reality is this: getting your foot into home ownership now is going to be massively beneficial to you than waiting to buy a home. And the reason for this is simple, and I share this with you a lot in the other episodes that I've made. When you look at the opportunity cost of time, if you said that it was going to take 10 years before you really thought you're going to have the right amount of down payment or the right money to be able to buy the home that you want, let's say that home is $200,000, right? And it took 10 years to save the money for a 20% down payment on that property, which is kind of ideal, but not necessary in this day and age. If you wanted to do that, then what you're going to be looking at is, statistically speaking, on a 100-year average, real estate appreciates by 3%. So if we were going to do just easy math, and by the way, the actual number will vary on this, but if you did easy math, 10 times 3 is what? 30%, right? 200 times 30% is what? $260,000. So by the time you came to the end of that 10 years, you were planning to buy a $200,000 home, but now that same home is $260,000. This is why getting real about the size of the home is extremely important, because it would be better to have a smaller home, get your foot in the door of home ownership, and let that home start paying you statistically over time. We know that real estate historically goes up in price. Some years it's going to be better than others. Some years it's going to go down. But statistically speaking, it will always go up and up and up over time. Would you rather be spending money on rent? Let's say that you spend $1,000 a month on rent and it costs $12,000 a year for that same 10-year period. That's $120,000 you would never get back again. Or would you rather have that $120,000 paying down a mortgage? Only you can answer that and what's best for you. Now, I will suggest to you and I will urge you that only buy a home if you know for a fact that you're going to be in the same area for at least 3 to 5 years, preferably 5 to 7 years. Doing so will give the market the opportunity to ideally pay you back. Of course, none of us have a crystal ball, but statistically speaking, you'll be looking at home appreciation over the long haul and over the long term of owning that home. And that's going to put you in a really sweet position. If you had to make the compromise on the size of the home up front, then it's going to put you in a really good position to buy that second home that you really want and you're really going to enjoy. Only you can answer what size really means to you. The third thing not to compromise on as a first-time home buyer are disclosures. All too often, there's so much going on. You're so focused on finding your beautiful new home. You're like, you know what? I don't need to read these freaking disclosures. I don't need to read all of these documents. Here's the thing, you do. Because what happens if the seller's reporting their structural foundation issues with that property? What if they're reporting that there was a hole in the roof that you could take a telescope out of and look straight up at the moon? We have a little bit of an issue, don't we? So we want to make sure that you're reviewing those disclosures. We want to make sure that you're reviewing preliminary title reports with your trusted real estate advisor and ensuring that all questions that you have in your mind's eye are answered so that you're comfortable and confident every step of the way. Don't mitigate disclosures. Please read your disclosures and please talk to your trusted real estate advisor to understand what those disclosures mean and how they impact you at the end of the day. Let's make sure that your first time home buying experience is a success and it's a lot of fun for you moving forward into the future as a homeowner. The fourth thing not to compromise on is how healthy is your HOA. With HOAs on the rise across the United States, it's really important to know how those HOAs are managed, understand what those CC&Rs say, and make sure that you agree with the CC&Rs or if it's time to find a different community. When we're talking about the health of your HOA, in reality, we're talking about the numbers. We're talking about the money and how well they manage the money in the HOA from the monthly dues, right? It's extremely important to know what those numbers look like. You will get a copy of this in something that's called a resale package that'll have the CC&Rs, the minutes to any meetings, and also the reserve studies and their financial disclosures for that year. Make sure that they're a strong HOA and make sure that they have the money, because here's what could happen. If you're buying in maybe a high rise or if you're buying in a townhome community and the HOAs aren't strong enough, they could levy what's called an assessment. Let's say that they want to put new windows on a building and they don't have enough money in the reserves to do that. Where are they going to get that money from? They're going to get it by levying an assessment onto you, the resident, and all the other residents in order to pay for those windows. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is something for you to know about if they're making an improvement to the building that goes beyond what the reserves have. And it shows maybe a little bit of a mismanagement in the funds if they don't have enough money for that project or perhaps too aggressive of an improvement schedule moving forward. All the same, reviewing those numbers and making sure that you understand those numbers and what you're getting yourself into within HOA are extremely important. By the way, HOA simply means Homeowners Association. In some areas they may call it a CIC, which is a combined interest community. Kind of the same thing here, all the same. Very extremely important for you to know what's in those CC&Rs. Be sure that you understand the strength of the HOA and that you're prepared to abide by the rules and play your part to be a productive member of the HOA that you buy within if you buy in an HOA. Something to think about, something to consider. The fifth thing not to compromise are your amenities. Now, you may not get every single thing that you want in your new home, and that's going to be okay, but there will be certain amenities that are extremely important to you to stay true to yourself with. Now, if you're wondering what a couple of those are, think about this. If you love being outside and you envision having outdoor barbecues and enjoying the outside space with your friends, your families, or whomever that you want to have over, or just yourself, what's it going to be like if you bought a condo with a small balcony? Is that really going to work out for you? Of course, the answer is no. So make sure that you're staying true to yourself about your must-haves and go ahead and write them out. A really good exercise here are to write out all the things that you would love to have in a home and then simply paste them up on a wall so that you can make a priority list based upon the ones that you can let go of, the ones that you are negotiable on, and the ones that you realistically need to have in your new home to be happy. Another big one that people sometimes compromise on are like kitchens. Kitchens are extremely important. Let's say that you're like Chef Gordon Ramsay and you love cooking, right? If you love cooking and you want to be on Hell's Kitchen going forward, hey, you know, maybe Chef Ramsay's watching this and he watches your comment down below and hits you up, right? Could happen. So for the chef and all of us, make sure that you're getting the right size kitchen if you enjoy to cook. If you don't enjoy cooking and you just go out to eat all the time, it's probably not that big of a deal. But if you are that cook, you need to make sure that you have the right space that you can grow within. Even if the kitchen isn't 100% what you want right now, you need to have the space if you plan to renovate. If you don't plan on renovating, then you hopefully can find the right kitchen for you now. Now be realistic, having a 5-star kitchen in your first home may not exactly happen, but you still need to think about what's most important to you. Now let's give you a practical exercise that you can use to help you discern your lifestyle and what's most important to you in your home. Get some little post-it notes, write down every amenity you like to have in the house. Simply paste them up on the wall and take a closer look at them and grade them in between a 1-star and a 5-star. A 5-star being an absolute must-have, a 1-star being, yeah, you could let it go and you could live without, but anything kind of in the middle, like a 3 or so, being something that you could negotiate with. Focus in on the 5s and make sure that your home has 1 to 3 of those 5s for you in your new home, and you're likely going to be happy. Okay, so now that you know 5 things not to compromise on, let's talk about how to determine your ideal home price and how to find your ideal home in these other great videos. Looking forward to chatting with you again soon. See you in a few.